The Secret Garden, Chapter 2, Part 3. Mary woke once more to silence, the manor wide and shadowed, yet holding secrets in every corner. She dressed quickly in the grey light, her small hands buttoning carefully, her thoughts still on hidden gardens. At breakfast, Martha spoke again, telling of lambs in the heather and the strong winds of the moor. Mary listened with brightened eyes, her sour face softening slowly as curiosity replaced her bitterness. She asked about the locked gardens, but Martha turned away quickly, pretending not to hear the question. The silence deepened around them, and Mary felt her heart beat faster, knowing there was more to discover. Later she walked the endless halls, her footsteps echoing lightly, like questions that had no answer. Through tall windows she saw the moor, stretching wild and endless outside, a world waiting for her courage. The house seemed vast again, its silence wrapping around her like a cloak she could not remove. She touched the wall as she walked, the stone cool beneath her fingers, steady as the heartbeat of the manor. Far off, a door creaked faintly, the sound drifting through corridors, as though someone unseen had passed. Mary paused to listen closely, but the stillness only returned, holding its secrets tight once more. Her thoughts circled back to gardens, to keys hidden somewhere nearby, to doors that longed to be opened. She pressed her cheek to the glass, watching the moor breathe outside, wild and endless beneath gray skies. The wind moved through the heather, its voice soft yet unbroken, calling her to step into its world. She whispered, "I will find it," her breath leaving marks on the pane, a vow caught between warmth and cold. Her heart beat a little faster, not from fear or loneliness, but from the spark of adventure. Steps echoed faintly behind her, or perhaps it was only the house settling deeper into its long silence. Mary turned, but no one was there. The corridor stretched wide and empty, shadows resting against heavy doors. She drew her shawl more tightly, the air cool against her neck, and walked on with slower steps. Each corner of the manor whispered, not with words she could understand, but with secrets waiting to be found. She thought of Martha's gentle voice speaking of sheep, winds, and heather, and felt less alone in the silence. At last she returned to her room, the fire low but steady, its glow soft against the dark. Mary sat quietly by the fire, her hands resting in her lap, watching the flames rise and fall. The warmth touched her gently, chasing away the chill of stone, though the silence still remained. She thought of the moor outside, of winds that carried wild songs, and of gardens hidden from view. Her eyes grew heavy with thought, yet her mind refused to rest, caught on doors she could not open. house seemed to breathe slowly, its walls steady and unchanging, but filled with secrets all the same. Mary whispered to herself again, "I will not stop searching," her voice soft against the quiet. The fire dimmed to glowing coals, shadows stretched across the floor, and the night folded gently in. She drew the blanket to her chin, her small body curling inward, seeking rest in the heavy silence. Dreams touched her at last, like petals brushing her cheek, fragile and fleeting in the dark. She drifted into sleep slowly, the manor watching over her, its silence deep and patient. Morning came with gray light, spreading across the curtains, gentle but without warmth. Mary rose from her bed slowly, her hair loose around her face, her eyes still heavy with dreams. The air felt sharp and cold, but it carried something new, a promise she could not name. She dressed with quiet care, her thoughts already wandering to keys, doors, and gardens unseen. When Martha knocked and entered, her cheerful voice filled the room, bright against the morning gray. Martha opened the curtains wide. Gray light filled the quiet room. The cold air touched Mary's skin. "You slept late," Martha said, setting down a bowl of water. "Did you dream of anything nice?" Mary sat up and rubbed her eyes. "I don't remember," she replied. Her voice was quiet and small. Martha smiled and shook her head. "You'll dream better tonight," she said as she made the bed. Mary stepped down from the bed. Her feet felt the cold floor. She stood still for a moment. She moved slowly to the basin. The water looked clear and cold. She touched it with her hands. A small shiver ran through her, but she washed her face anyway. It woke her up a little more. Martha watched her from the side. "You'll get used to mornings here. They're always a bit cold." Mary dried her face in silence. She glanced out the window, searching the pale gray sky. "I want to go outside today," she said with a quiet voice. "I need some fresh air." Martha nodded and smiled at her. "Aye, that's a good idea, miss. The garden paths are clean now." Mary's eyes lit up just a bit. "Is it allowed?" she asked softly. "Can I really go out there?" "Of course," Martha said warmly. "But don't go where it's muddy. And wear your warm cloak, too." Mary looked down at the floor. "I don't know where to go yet." Her fingers played with her sash. "There's lots to see," said Martha. "Walk past the kitchen garden and you'll find the rose trees." Mary nodded without a smile. She was not used to kindness, but Martha's words felt warm. She let Martha help her dress. The clothes were simple and thick, made for wind and rain. A small coat was buttoned tight. A woolen cap covered her hair. She looked ready for the moor. Martha stepped back and said, "You look proper now, miss. Go on and take a good walk." Mary walked slowly to the door. The hallway was wide and cold, but no one else was near. She opened the heavy front door. Wind touched her face like ice. She pulled her coat tighter. The sky was full of soft clouds. Gray and white drifted slowly, just like her quiet thoughts. The garden paths were still wet. Her shoes sank into the dirt, but she stepped with care. The air smelled of grass and soil. Some trees stood bare and thin, others still held green leaves. She saw a robin on the path. It hopped, turned, and stared, then flew to a low stone wall. Mary watched the little bird. It moved so free and fast, like it belonged to the wind. She walked where the robin flew. The path curved past a tall hedge, old branches twisting like ropes. Behind the hedge was silence. No footsteps, no wind, no voice, just the sound of her breath. She stopped and looked around. There was something hidden there. She could feel it deep inside. An old door stood in the wall. Its paint was cracked and faded. The handle was rusted shut. Mary stepped closer, curious. She reached out one hand slowly, but the door would not move. She pushed, then pulled again. It didn't budge an inch. There was no keyhole either. She stared at the locked door. Why is it closed, she wondered. What's behind this wall? The robin flew to a tree nearby. It chirped once, then went quiet, as if keeping a secret. Mary stood still for a while. The wind moved through the trees. Something whispered in her heart. She turned and walked away slowly, but kept glancing back at the wall. The locked door stayed silent. Back near the kitchen garden, she saw more rose bushes. Brown stems curled in sleep. The gardener was there working. He was old, thin, and quiet, his dog asleep by his feet. He didn't look up right away. His hands were deep in the soil, planting roots with care. Mary stood and watched him. He seemed part of the earth, like a tree that had grown old. At last the man looked up. He nodded once, then spoke. "Mornin', you're the new girl." Mary nodded but said nothing. She wasn't used to strangers. Still, she didn't walk away. The man smiled with his eyes. "Name's Ben Weatherstaff," he said, wiping dirt from his hands. "That there's my friend," he said, nodding at the small red robin. "He knows more than people do." Mary glanced at the little bird. It hopped along the garden wall, then flew into the blue sky. She looked back at Ben's face. "You talk to robins?" she asked, surprised by her own voice. Ben gave a short laugh. "Aye, and they talk back too. You just have to listen right." Mary smiled a little then, the first real smile she'd made since she came to the manor. The robin chirped again nearby. Mary turned to look at it. It tilted its head and stared. "I think it likes me," she said. Ben gave a slow nod and said, "He's choosy. That's a good sign." The wind blew soft through the trees. Leaves rustled like quiet words, telling stories no one heard. Mary closed her eyes for a moment. She breathed in the garden air and felt something open inside. "Do you work here every day?" she asked as Ben turned to go. "Most days," he answered gently. She wanted to ask more, but her thoughts stayed quiet. There was time, so much time. Mary walked back toward the house. Her steps were slower, softer now. The garden had touched her heart. The train ride was long and quiet. Mary stared out at the moor. Endless land stretched before her. The sky hung low and heavy. Clouds moved like gray shadows. The air seemed colder still. She pressed her face to the glass. Hills rolled on without an end. No sound but the wheels below. Her hands rested in her lap. She thought of the locked door and the garden hidden away. The moor looked lonely and wild, strange and wide yet calling her. It felt both empty and alive. Mary's eyes grew thoughtful. What secrets lay in that land? What stories did it keep? The wind rattled the windows. It whispered across the fields. She shivered at the sound. She leaned back on the seat. Her mind returned to the garden. She wished to see it again. The thought warmed her heart. It was hers now in secret, a place no one else could touch. The train slowed at last. Smoke drifted past the glass. The moor waited wide and still. Mary stood with steady steps. Her heart beat quick and light. The journey was not over. Beyond the station stretched silence. The moor lay open before her. Across the moor, a new journey was beginning.